Hi everyone. I wanted to do a quick video for Technique Tuesday. I want to start a new series about stamping. I know a lot of us have stamps and they end up being stored and not used, and sometimes I pull out my stamps to, to touch them and smell them, or I don't know. Maybe not everybody smells their stamps. Never mind. Cut that out. Okay, so I just wanted to run through some basic tips if you're new to stamping, or maybe you have lots of stamps, you've just fallen out of the habit of using them. And so the first thing I want to talk about is your block size. So when you get your blocks out, it's important to get different sizes of blocks, and so that the blocks match up with your stamped image, like that. So there, yeah. So the issue that I know a lot of people do is they take this little teeny stamp right here and they put it on this big giant block, and then they get ink everywhere. And so what happens when you do that is when you go to stamp, you end up getting ink on the edges there, you see? And so you think, oh, I got a pretty stamp, let's stamp it, and then you stamp it down and you get those weird squares. And so nobody wants those. So we want to pick the right size block. Okay, the next thing that you do with acrylic stamps, the first time you pull them out, you do need to season them. And so what seasoning means is that you're prepping them, the surface of the stamp, and so it'll hold the ink effectively. A lot of times acrylic stamps, not so much with rubber stamps, but the acrylic stamps have some kind of coating on them, and it makes the ink bead on the stamp. And so what I like to do, by the way, the stamp that I'm using is from this month's Studio Calico Project Life Kit, and I will link that below if you're interested in looking at that stamp further. Okay, so first thing I do is when I'm going to take this stamp, the I love you more than all, why can't I read it? More than all the stars. Okay, so I'm going to put it onto my block, and usually I use a grid to line up words. My grid paper's over there, so that it's straight. But these blocks that I have are from Close to My Heart, and they do contain a line there on here to help you kind of get straight. So that is helpful. Okay, second step once you get on your block is I like to use a white eraser. This one has, somebody stabbed it with a pencil, apparently. They tried to kill my eraser. Anyway, probably the kids digging in my stuff. Okay, so I take a white eraser and I run it over your stamp to kind of get away. It erases that film or whatever is on acrylic stamps and gets you ready, and then I just lightly dust it off. Some people like to take their stamp and rub it on their arm right here. I don't like to do that because it feels creepy to me, and I can't handle that. Okay, so we've got our stamp seasoned, and then we're going to place a cushion under the paper that we're going to be stamping on. A cushion is very important because it helps the paper absorb the stamp more evenly. I have this foam pad. You can use just a regular sheet of foam. You can also use a pad of paper. Okay, so I'm going to be using this ink called Pacifica. It's by Close to My Heart. It is a dye ink. I have a lot of Close to My Heart stuff because I used to be a consultant, and so that's where most of my stamping supplies have come from. Okay, so we're going to get a scratch piece of paper. We're still in the seasoning mode. And on our scratch piece of paper, we're going to want to stamp the image 2 or 3 times to make sure that the ink is being evenly distributed and we've gotten all of that residue off. And so to get the ink onto your stamp, I like to use the tap, tap, twist, twist method. So you go tap, tap, twist, twist, tap, tap. Okay? And then this is just practice. So we're going to stamp down, and we're going to stamp evenly with even pressure. Okay? And so right here, you can see I pushed a little bit too hard. I didn't do even pressure on that E. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's kind of blurry. And so that's why we're practicing, so we can kind of get the hang of what pressure you need to use. When you're using a background print, you're going to want to use more pressure than if you're using a quote or words, because if you use a lot of pressure there, they get smushed together. So here we go again. Tap, tap, twist, twist, tap, tap. And for some reason, I always take a breath before I put the stamp down. I'm like, whew, like it's some major life-changing event. Okay, so we're doing good. One more time just to make sure that we are all good. Okay, there we go. So to recap, we've got the right block size. We seasoned our stamp. We put a cushion down, and then we applied even pressure onto our paper. Okay, so now it's time for the real deal, that life-changing moment that everybody is afraid of. Stamping the image. Okay, I'm going to stamp it right down here. And there we go. I love you more than all the stars. So it's a little crooked, but it's not so crooked that it would bother me. Okay, so we're going to move on to another stamp. I'm going to do this one that looks kind of like a washi tape design. What you can do if you want to clean all of your stamps at once is that you can actually flip your block over and put your stamp onto the back of it and then stamp that way. And then you're all cleaning at once. But for the sake of me not making a huge mess, which it's okay to make a mess. That's part of the fun of it, right? Okay, so I'm going to stick that on there. This one doesn't want to go straight. See, and what I'm doing here is I'm trying to stick it on there straight and it's not working. And the best method for me that I found is to put grid paper down, or graph paper, and put it down and then put your block to your stamp. And see that? Look at how straight. Jeez. Okay. So here we go. Again, we're going to season our stamp. And you only have to do this the first time that you break out a new stamp set. After you've stamped with it several times and have used it, the seasoning process is no longer applies. Although I do still use my scratch paper to make sure that my image is not, you know, crazy. So we're going to tap, twist, tap. Going to stamp. So that one looks pretty good right out of the gate. Bigger stamps usually require a little more seasoning than the smaller stamps because, you know, there's more surface area to cover. So that one I'm only going to do twice. It looks pretty good and seasoned. Okay, we're going to get our tag. And this one I'm going to stamp off of the tag to get it kind of a washi type look, like it's wrapping around. Okay, I think one more would be good. Okay, now I've got my washi design there. I did get some here on my foam pad. You're going to want to make sure that you take a wipey and clean that up, or your stamp cleaner, because it doesn't really dry on the foam. And so what happens is, you know, a while later you're doing a layout or a project or something, and you have this blue ink everywhere, and you're like, where did that come from? So you want to clean that up. Okay, next stamp I'm going to use is the Time to Be Awesome. I like that stamp. So again, I'm going to place it. Okay, get my scratchy. And this time I'm going to use this saddle ink from Close to My Heart. And see, I got some ink there, so I'm going to wipe that off. Make sure you wipe before you stamp. And I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but there is some pooling on here. on the stamp, and that's typical with dye inks because they are water-based. So if you wanted to use a different kind of ink, a pigment ink, or like a memento ink, that won't happen. But it also will lessen with seasoning if you want to use a dye ink. Okay, it's still, and some stamps are temperamental. You know, you can't, you just have to experiment. You've got to pull them out, and you've got to get some time under your belt with stamping. And then you'll be more comfortable, and you'll be adventurous, and then you'll get to the point where you will have a layout all done, finished, and you're like, oh, I need a little stamp in the corner. And you'll be brave, and you'll pull out your stamps, and you'll just stamp it. You won't even care. I know that can be really scary, but trust me. There's a quote about when you make a mistake, and I don't know who said it, but when you make a mistake, make that your opportunity to turn it into something beautiful. So I try to do that with my scrapbooking. Stamp down, and there we go. Time to be awesome. You know what it's time to do? I'm going to sound corny. Pull out your stamps, get them out, play around, and get some inky fingers and have some fun. So I hope this helped you. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to help you or ease you into this fun stamping world. So thanks for watching. Bye.